The wind screamed across the frozen wasteland of Viridia, 7 like a wounded animal. Snow fell so thick that Daniel Price could barely see 3 feet in front of his face. He pulled his coat tighter around his body and pushed against the storm, fighting to reach his workshop door. It had been another long day. His hands ached from carving wood, and his eyes burned from focusing on tiny details for hours. But the work made him happy. Every toy he created brought a smile to some child's face in the colony, and that was worth the pain. Daniel was 52 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. He lived alone on the edge of the colony, far from the main town. Most people thought he was strange. They whispered about him in the market. The lonely toymaker who talked to himself. The sad old man who lived in the past. Let them talk. Daniel did not care anymore. He reached his workshop and fumbled with his keys. The metal was so cold it burned his fingers even through his gloves. The wind tried to rip the door from his hands as he opened it. He stumbled inside and slammed it shut behind him. Silence. Beautiful, peaceful silence. Daniel stood in the darkness for a moment, catching his breath. His workshop was small but cozy. Wooden toys covered every surface. Dragons, spaceships, dolls, and animals. Some were finished and painted bright colors. Others were still rough wood, waiting for his tools to give them life. He moved to light a lamp when he heard it. Scratch, scratch, scratch. The sound came from outside his door. Probably just ice falling from the roof, he thought. Or maybe a piece of metal torn loose by the wind. Scratch, scratch, scratch. There it was again. Weaker this time. Almost desperate. Daniel frowned. He should ignore it. The storm was getting worse. Nothing could survive out there for long. But something made him pause. Something about that sound felt wrong. Felt like a cry for help. He grabbed his lamp and opened the door a crack. The wind exploded into his face, stealing his breath. Snow swirled everywhere. He held the lamp high and looked down. His heart stopped. A creature lay crumpled in the snow at his doorstep. It was small, maybe the size of a 7-year-old child. But it was definitely not human. Scales covered its body, shimmering blue and silver even under the frost. 2 wings lay twisted and torn against its back. A long tail curled around its body, trying to hold in warmth that was already gone. It was a dragon, or something very much like a dragon. Its chest moved slightly. It was still alive, but barely. Daniel knew what this creature was. Everyone in the colony knew about the Drakeen. They were an alien race that ruled a huge empire far from human space. They were proud, powerful, and dangerous. They did not like humans much, and humans did not trust them. And here was one dying on his doorstep. Daniel's mind raced. Colony law was very clear. Any unauthorized alien had to be reported immediately. Harboring one could mean deportation or prison. The colony took security seriously this far from Earth. But looking at the small creature, all Daniel could see was a child. A child freezing to death. The dragon's eyes opened slightly. They were golden like coins catching firelight. They looked at Daniel with such pain and fear that it broke something inside him. He thought of his daughter, his sweet Lily, who had died 8 years ago from a plague that swept through the colony. She had been alone in the hospital when she passed. He had not made it in time. He had never forgiven himself for that. This child was alone too. Alone and dying. Daniel made his choice. He set down the lamp and bent down. The creature was heavier than it looked, but he managed to lift it. The scales felt like ice against his hands. The dragon made a soft sound, somewhere between a whimper and a chirp. "I've got you," Daniel whispered. "You're safe now." He carried the creature inside and kicked the door shut. The wind howled in fury at losing its victim. Daniel laid the dragon on the rug near his fireplace. He threw more wood on the fire, making it roar. Then he grabbed every blanket he owned and piled them on the small body. He filled bottles with hot water and tucked them around the dragon. He turned on every heater in his workshop. But still, the creature shivered. His breathing was shallow and fast. His body temperature felt like ice. Daniel knew human medicine would not help. Drakeen biology was completely different. But he had to try something. He ran to his kitchen and heated up some broth. He did not know if the dragon could eat human food, but warm liquid might help. He also found some honey and mixed it in. Sugar was energy. Energy was life. Carefully, he lifted the dragon's head and brought a spoon to its mouth. The creature's eyes opened again, confused and scared. Tried to pull away. "Please," Daniel said softly. "I'm trying to help. Just a little." Maybe it was his tone. Maybe it was desperation. But the dragon opened its mouth slightly. Daniel managed to get a few drops of broth inside. The creature swallowed, then coughed. But it kept the liquid down. Daniel spent the next hour feeding it drop by drop. Slowly, the shivering became less violent. The breathing became deeper. As he worked, Daniel noticed something around the dragon's neck. It was a metal collar with a broken device attached. Some kind of translator, he guessed. The Drakeen used those to speak with other species. He looked at the creature more closely. The scales were dull in places, scarred. Its wings had old injuries that had healed badly. This dragon had not been well cared for. What had happened? How did it end up here, alone in a storm? The dragon's eyes opened again. They looked at Daniel for a long moment. Then, slowly, the creature's hand moved. It reached out and touched Daniel's hand with one clawed finger. The touch was gentle, grateful. Daniel felt tears burning his eyes. When was the last time anyone had touched him with kindness? When was the last time he had felt needed? "You're going to be okay," he told the dragon. "I promise." He knew it was a promise he might not be able to keep. But he meant it anyway. Hours passed. Daniel sat by the fire watching the dragon sleep. The storm raged outside, shaking the walls of his workshop. But inside it was warm, safe. Daniel thought about what he had done. By morning he would be a criminal. If anyone found out he was hiding a Drakeen, especially a young one, the consequences would be severe. The colony could not afford to anger the Drakeen Empire. Relations were already tense. But as he watched the small chest rise and fall with each breath, Daniel knew he had made the right choice. Tomorrow would bring problems. Tomorrow would bring decisions. But tonight, a child was alive who would have died. That had to count for something. The dragon stirred in its sleep and made a soft sound, almost like it was dreaming. Daniel reached over and gently adjusted the blankets, making sure no cold air could reach the small body. "Sleep well, little one," he whispered. "Whatever your name is, whatever your story is, you're safe here. I won't let anyone hurt you." The wind howled outside, but Daniel did not hear it anymore. He was too busy keeping watch over his unexpected guest. He did not know it yet, but this moment would change everything. Not just for him, but for the entire colony. Maybe even for the relationship between humans and Drakeen. But that was tomorrow's story. Tonight, there was only warmth, shelter, and one man's choice to care when it would have been easier to look away. And sometimes that was enough. Daniel woke up with his neck aching and his back stiff. He had fallen asleep in his chair by the fireplace. Morning light came through the frosted windows, turning everything blue and white. He sat up quickly and looked at the pile of blankets on the floor. His heart jumped. Had the dragon survived the night? Then he saw movement. A small head poked out from under the blankets. Golden eyes blinked at him slowly. Relief flooded through Daniel. "Good morning," he said softly. "How are you feeling?" The dragon stared at him but said nothing. Of course not. The translator device was broken. Daniel stood up carefully, trying not to move too fast. He did not want to scare his guest. He walked to the kitchen and heated up more broth. He also cooked some eggs and cut up some fruit. He had no idea what dragons ate, but he would try everything. When he came back, the dragon had pulled itself into a sitting position. It looked weak and shaky, but much better than last night. The scales seemed brighter now. Less frost covered them. Daniel set the food down nearby and backed away. "I made breakfast. Eat whatever you want." The dragon looked at the food, then at Daniel, then back at the food. Slowly, carefully, it reached out and picked up a piece of fruit. It sniffed it, then took a tiny bite. His eyes went wide. It ate the rest quickly, then reached for more. Daniel smiled. Good. That's good. Eat as much as you need. He watched as the dragon ate everything he had brought. It used its clawed hands carefully, almost like it had good manners. This was definitely not a wild creature. Someone had raised it, taught it. So why was it alone in a storm? After eating, the dragon looked more alert. It turned its golden eyes on Daniel and made a sound. A series of clicks and chirps that meant nothing to him. I can't understand you, Daniel said. He pointed to the broken translator. That's broken, but maybe I can fix it. He picked up the device carefully. The dragon tensed but did not pull away. Daniel examined it closely. He was not an engineer, but he had fixed plenty of broken things over the years. Toys, machines, all sorts of devices. This could not be too different. He spent the next hour working on it while the dragon watched. Some wires had been torn loose. Power cell was cracked. He replaced what he could with parts from old colony equipment. It was messy work, but finally, a small light blinked on. Try it now, Daniel said, offering the device back. The dragon took it with both hands and attached it to the collar around its neck. Pressed a button and made a sound. Test, a mechanical voice said. Test. Working. Daniel's heart leaped. It works. Can you tell me your name? The dragon looked at him for a long moment. When it spoke, the voice was young and female with a strange accent. Name is... She paused. Name is Stella of the Brightscale clan. But that name is gone now. Gone? What do you mean? Stella looked down at her clawed hands. I was cast out. My family, they left me to die. I am severed. I have no clan, no name, no home. Daniel felt anger rising in his chest. They left you? A child? In a storm. I am weak, Stella said quietly. I was always weak. My wings did not grow right. I could not fly like my brothers and sisters. I shamed my mother. So when our ship was damaged and we had to land for repairs, she said I could not come back. She said I would make the clan look bad. That's horrible, Daniel said. You're just a kid. You can't help how you were born. Stella looked at him strangely. You are human. Humans are soft. Everyone knows this. Why do you care about me? Drakeen have caused your people much trouble. Daniel sat down on the floor across from her. Maybe we are soft, but being soft doesn't mean being weak. It means we care about things besides power and strength. We care about kindness, about helping those who need it. My mother said caring is weakness. She said only the strong deserve to live. Well, your mother is wrong, Daniel said firmly. And since you're in my house now, we do things my way. Here, everyone deserves warmth and safety. Even scared dragon children who showed up in storms. Stella's eyes grew wet. Daniel did not know if dragons could cry, but it looked like she wanted to. Why? She whispered. Why help me? You break your laws. You risk your safety. For what? Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he stood up and walked to a shelf. He picked up a small wooden dragon, beautifully carved and painted. He had made it years ago. I had a daughter once, he said softly. Her name was Lily. She loved dragons. She made me carve this for her. She carried it everywhere. He sat back down and showed the toy to Stella. She got sick. The colony doctors couldn't save her. She died alone in a hospital bed because I was working and couldn't get there in time. I never forgave myself for that. Stella reached out and gently touched the wooden dragon. I am sorry, she said. When I saw you on my doorstep, dying in the cold, all I could think was that no child should die alone. No child should feel unwanted. If I could save you, then maybe Lily's death meant something. Maybe I could do better this time. A tear rolled down Stella's scaly cheek. You are very strange human, she said, but also very kind. Thank you for the warmth you gave me. Not just fire warmth. The other kind. The kind I never had before. Daniel smiled. You're welcome. And since you don't have a name anymore, can I call you something simple? How about just Stella? The dragon thought about this. Stella. Yes, I like this. It is shorter, easier. New name for new life. Good. Stella, it is. They spent the rest of the morning talking. Stella told him about the Drakeen Empire, how they valued strength above all things, how families competed for honor and status, how the weak were left behind or killed. Daniel told her about humans, about how they took care of their sick and elderly, about how they believed everyone had value, about love and family and second chances. Humans sound very different from Drakeen, Stella said. But I think I like your way better. Daniel was about to respond when he heard a knock on his door. Both of them froze. Daniel Price, a voice called from outside. It's Officer Kevin Martinez. I need to talk to you. Stella's eyes went wide with fear. Daniel put a finger to his lips, signaling silence. He pointed to the back room of his workshop. Hide in there, behind the big shelf. Don't make a sound. Stella moved quickly despite her weakness. She slipped into the back room and disappeared from sight. Daniel took a deep breath and opened the door. Officer Martinez stood there in his colony security uniform. He was younger than Daniel, maybe 35, with dark hair and suspicious eyes. He looked cold and tired. Morning, Daniel, Martinez said. Mind if I come in? Of course not. What's this about? Martinez stepped inside and looked around. We're doing a security check. A Drakeen ship was detected in this sector 3 days ago. It sent a distress signal, then went silent. We think it might have crashed somewhere nearby. Daniel's heart pounded, but he kept his face calm. Haven't seen anything, but the storm was pretty bad. Hard to see much of anything, right? The thing is, we have to find them if they're here. The Drakeen Empire is already asking questions. If one of their people is missing and we didn't help, it could cause a big problem. Maybe even war. I understand, but I haven't seen any aliens around here. Martinez walked slowly through the workshop, looking at the toys on the shelves. You live alone out here, don't you? Pretty isolated. Must get lonely. I like the quiet. Yeah. Martinez picked up one of the wooden toys, a small spaceship. You're a good craftsman. My daughter loves the doll you made her last year. I'm glad she likes it. Martinez set the toy down and looked directly at Daniel. You would tell me if you saw something strange, wouldn't you? I know you're a good man, Daniel, but this is serious. If you're hiding something, now's the time to say so. Daniel met his eyes steadily. I'm not hiding anything, Kevin. Just a lonely old man making toys. Martinez studied him for a long moment. Then he sighed. All right, sorry to bother you, but if you see anything at all, you contact me immediately. Understood. Understood. Martinez walked to the door, then paused. Your power usage went up a lot last night. The colony monitoring system flagged it. That's actually why I came by. Any reason you needed so much heat? Daniel thought fast. Old bones. The storm was bad. I ran extra heaters all night. Getting cold in my old age, I guess. Martinez nodded slowly. Right? Well, try to conserve energy when you can. Power is expensive out here. I will. After Martinez left, Daniel stood by the door for a full minute, listening to make sure the officer was really gone. Then he called out softly, He's gone, Stella. You can come out. Stella emerged from the back room, shaking slightly. He almost found me. If he had looked harder. But he didn't. We're safe for now. For now, Stella repeated. But what about tomorrow? What about when more people come looking? Daniel sat down heavily. She was right. This could not last forever. Eventually, someone would find out. And when they did, what would happen to both of them? He looked at Stella, at her golden eyes full of fear and hope. She trusted him. She had no one else. We'll figure it out, he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. One day at a time. Right now, you need to rest and get stronger. Everything else can wait. Stella came over and sat next to him. She leaned her head against his shoulder, something that surprised them both. Thank you, Daniel, she said quietly, for giving me the only warmth I ever had. Daniel put his arm around her small shoulders. You're welcome, Stella. You're welcome. Outside, the wind continued to blow. The colony went about its business. And somewhere in the stars above, the Drakeen Empire searched for one of its lost children, not knowing she had already found something more valuable than an empire. She had found a home. 1 week had passed since Daniel found Stella at his door. 7 days of hiding, worrying, and learning to live together. Stella was much stronger now. Her scales shone bright blue and silver again. She could walk around the workshop without getting tired. She even helped Daniel with his work, holding pieces of wood while he carved them. But she was still scared. Every time someone walked past the workshop, she ran to hide. Every loud noise made her jump. She knew that discovery meant going back to a family that did not want her. Daniel tried to make her feel safe. He taught her how to make toys. He showed her pictures of Earth and told her stories about human history. He made her laugh with silly jokes, and Stella taught him too. She told him about distant planets he had never heard of. She explained how Drakeen ships traveled faster than light. She sang songs in her language that sounded like wind chimes. They were becoming a family. A strange, impossible family. But a family nonetheless. One morning, Daniel was teaching Stella how to carve wood. She held the small knife carefully, copying his movements. "Good," Daniel said. "Nice and slow. Let the blade do the work." "It is harder than it looks," Stella said, concentrating. "But I like it. Feels good to create something. That's why I became a toy maker. Creating brings joy. First to me, then to whoever gets the toy." Stella looked at the piece she was working on. It was supposed to be a bird, but it looked more like a lumpy ball with a beak. She laughed. "Mine does not bring joy. It brings confusion." Daniel chuckled. "Everyone starts somewhere. My first toy looked like a rock with legs." They worked in comfortable silence for a while. Then Stella spoke quietly. "Daniel, can I ask you something?" "Of course. You said humans believe everyone has value. But do they really? Your officer friend seemed suspicious of me. And you said you have to hide me from other humans. If humans value everyone, why would they turn me away?" Daniel set down his carving tool. "It was a good question. A hard question. Humans aren't perfect," he said slowly. "We say we believe in kindness and fairness. But sometimes fear makes us forget those beliefs. Some people in the colony are scared of your people. The Drakeen Empire has ships and weapons. They could destroy us if they wanted to. So when people are scared, they don't always do the right thing. So humans are like Drakeen. They care about strength too." "No, not exactly. Humans are complicated. We can be brave and cowardly at the same time. We can be kind and cruel. We struggle between what we want to do and what we should do. That struggle is what makes us human." Stella thought about this. Drakeen do not struggle. We are taught what is right from birth. The strong lead. The weak follow or die. It is simple. Simple doesn't mean good. I know that now, but my people do not. They think your way is weak. They think caring about others makes you soft. Easy to defeat. Daniel smiled. Maybe soft isn't the same as weak. Maybe caring is its own kind of strength. It takes more courage to help someone when it might hurt you than to just walk away. Before Stella could respond, they heard a loud voice from outside. Someone was shouting. Daniel moved to the window and looked out. His stomach dropped. A crowd had gathered in the town square, about 100 yards from his workshop. He could see Officer Martinez standing on a platform. Next to him was Administrator Patricia Owens, the leader of the colony. She was a tall woman with gray hair and a stern face. "What is happening?" Stella asked, staying back from the window. "Town meeting," Daniel said. "That's never good." He opened his window slightly so they could hear. Patricia Owens was speaking. Her voice carried across the snow. "We have received an official communication from the Drakeen Empire. They are sending a fleet to our sector. They will arrive in 3 days." The crowd murmured nervously. "Why are they coming?" someone shouted. "They are searching for a missing Drakeen," Patricia continued. "A young one from the Brightscale clan. The ship it was on sent a distress signal near our planet before going silent. The Drakeen believe their child may have survived and be somewhere in our colony. Daniel felt his blood turn cold. Stella grabbed his arm. "If we do not find this alien and return it," Patricia said, "the Drakeen have threatened military action. They claim we are holding their property illegally." "Property?" Someone in the crowd yelled. "It's a child, not property." "That is how they see it," Patricia said. "Regardless of how we feel, we cannot risk war. Therefore, I am ordering a full search of every building in the colony. Starting tomorrow morning. If anyone is hiding this alien, you must come forward now. There will be no punishment if you report it immediately. But if we find it during the search and you lied, the consequences will be severe." The crowd erupted in arguments. Some people wanted to find the alien and hand it over immediately. Others said it was wrong to give up a child. Many just looked scared. Daniel closed the window and turned to Stella. Her golden eyes were wide with terror. "They are coming for me," she whispered. "They will find me, and you will be punished for helping me." "Stella, listen to me." "No." She stood up, her whole body shaking. "I will not let you suffer for my sake. I will turn myself in. I will go back to my mother. It is better than you getting hurt." "Absolutely not," Daniel said firmly. "I won't let that happen. You do not understand. The Drakeen Empire will destroy this colony if I do not return. All these humans will die because of me. I cannot let that happen." Daniel knelt down so he was eye level with her. "And I can't let you go back to a family that threw you away. There has to be another option." "What option?" "They will search every building. They will find me tomorrow. It is over." Daniel stood up and started pacing. His mind raced. There had to be a way. Some solution he was not seeing. Then he remembered something Stella had told him days ago. Something about Drakeen culture and laws. "Stella, you said you were severed from your clan. What does that mean exactly? In legal terms?" Stella wiped her eyes. "It means I have no family. No legal connection to them. I am... what is the human word? Orphan. And can an orphan Drakeen join a new family? Sometimes, if another clan claims them. But they must prove they are worthy. They must pass the right of reclamation." "What is that?" Stella explained. "It is an ancient law. Very old. If someone wants to adopt a severed child, they must challenge the original family. They must prove they can provide what the family could not. Survival, strength, purpose. If they prove this, the child can choose to join the new family." Daniel's heart started beating faster. "So if I challenge your mother, if I prove I can take care of you better than she did, then legally you could stay with me?" Stella stared at him. "Daniel, no. You cannot. The challenges are difficult. Sometimes they are combat. My mother is a warrior. She would kill you in seconds. Not all challenges are combat though, right? You said they have to prove they can provide survival, strength, and purpose. I kept you alive when you were dying. I gave you shelter and food and safety. That's survival. But strength. I faced down a colony security officer to protect you. I risked my home and freedom. That takes strength. Not physical strength, but moral strength. And purpose. I taught you to create instead of destroy. I showed you that life can be about more than power and dominance. I gave you hope." Stella was quiet for a long moment. "It is possible," she said slowly. "If you could make the challenge. If you could face my mother and prove all of this. Then legally the Empire would have to accept it. The right of reclamation is sacred to us. Even my mother cannot refuse it. Then that's what I'll do." "Daniel, you do not understand. Even if the challenge is not combat, you will stand before the High Council of my clan. You will be judged by Drakeen who think humans are inferior. They will look for any reason to reject you. Let them look. I'll show them what humans are really made of." There was a knock at the door. Both of them froze. "Daniel?" A voice called. It was not Officer Martinez this time. It was softer. Female. "Daniel, it's me. Margaret Foster. From the school. Please open up. I need to talk to you." Daniel recognized the name. Margaret was the colony teacher. She had been kind to him after Lily died. She had even bought several toys from him for her classroom. He looked at Stella. Do you trust me? Stella nodded slowly. Daniel opened the door. Margaret Foster stood there. She was in her 40s, with kind eyes and brown hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked nervous. I'm sorry to bother you, she said. But I need to. Oh. She had seen Stella. For a moment nobody moved. Daniel prepared to defend Stella if necessary. Then Margaret surprised him. She stepped inside and closed the door behind her. So it's true, she said quietly. You have been hiding her. Margaret, I can explain. You don't need to explain. I understand. Daniel blinked. You do. Margaret walked over to Stella. The dragon child backed away nervously. But Margaret smiled warmly. Hello there. My name is Margaret. I'm a teacher here. What's your name? Stella looked at Daniel. He nodded. She turned back to Margaret. Stella. That's a beautiful name. You don't need to be afraid of me, Stella. I'm not going to tell anyone you're here. Why not? Stella asked. Because Daniel is a good man. If he's protecting you, there must be a good reason. And honestly, I heard what Administrator Owens said about how the Drakeen call you property. That made me angry. Children aren't property. Not human children, not Drakeen children. No children. Daniel felt relief wash over him. Thank you, Margaret. Don't thank me yet. They're going to search this building tomorrow. You need a plan. I have one. Sort of. I'm going to invoke the right of reclamation. I'm going to challenge Stella's mother for legal custody. Margaret's eyes went wide. That's incredibly brave. And possibly insane. Do you even know how to do that? Not yet. But I'll figure it out. Margaret was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. I'll help you. I have some friends who can help too. Dr. Carl Jensen, for one. He treated your daughter. He's a good man. And there are others in the colony who are tired of living in fear, who want to do the right thing even when it's hard. That would mean risking your own safety, Daniel said. I know, but some things are worth the risk. She looked at Stella. You're worth the risk. Stella's eyes filled with tears again. I do not understand humans. You risk everything for people you barely know. Why? Margaret knelt down next to her. Because that's what makes us human. We care. We help. We stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. It's not always easy. Sometimes it's terrifying. But it's who we are. She looked up at Daniel. When do the Drakeen arrive? 3 days. Then we have 3 days to prepare. We need to gather evidence. Document everything. Find witnesses. Make your case as strong as possible. And we need to convince Administrator Owens to allow the challenge instead of just handing Stella over. Daniel nodded. That won't be easy. Patricia is all about following rules and avoiding conflict. Then we'll have to show her that this is a rule worth following. The right of reclamation is Drakeen law. If we use their own law against them, they can't refuse without looking weak. And if there's one thing the Drakeen hate, it's looking weak. Over the next few hours, they made plans. Margaret left to quietly gather support among the colonists. She would find people who would testify on Daniel's behalf. People who would stand up at the challenge and say that Daniel was a good man. A good father. After she left, Daniel and Stella sat by the fire. Are you sure about this? Stella asked. If you fail, my mother will take me back. And you will have made an enemy of the entire Drakeen Empire. I'm sure, Daniel said. I've lived in fear for 8 years. Fear of losing someone else I care about. Fear of opening my heart again. But you know what? Fear is a terrible way to live. I'd rather take a risk and fail than spend the rest of my life wondering what if. Stella moved closer and hugged him. It was the first time she had done that. Her scales felt warm now, not cold like that first night. Thank you, she whispered, for showing me that kindness is real. That love is real. Whatever happens, you gave me something my own family never did. You gave me hope. Daniel hugged her back. And you gave me something too. You gave me a reason to stop hiding from life. A reason to be brave again. Outside, the wind had stopped. The stars were visible for the first time in days. Somewhere up there, a fleet of Drakeen warships was traveling toward them. In 3 days, everything would change. But tonight, in a small workshop on a frozen planet, a lonely old man and a scared young dragon held onto each other and hoped that love would be enough. Sometimes, hope was all you needed to start. The next morning came too quickly. Daniel woke up to the sound of vehicles moving through the colony. The search had begun. Teams of security officers were going door to door, looking for Stella. He looked over at the small dragon sleeping near the fireplace. She looked peaceful in her sleep. Innocent. Just a child who wanted to be safe. How could anyone look at her and see only property? There was a firm knock at the door. Daniel's heart jumped. This was it. "Stay calm," he whispered to Stella, who had woken up. "Remember what we talked about." He opened the door. Officer Martinez stood there with 2 other security officers. Martinez looked uncomfortable. "Daniel," he said, "I'm sorry, but I have a warrant to search your property. Orders from Administrator Owens." "I understand. Come in." The 3 officers entered. They began looking through the workshop carefully, opening cabinets, checking behind shelves, looking in every corner. Daniel watched them, trying to keep his breathing steady. He had spent half the night building a secret compartment in the floor of his back room. It was hidden under a heavy workbench and covered with a rug. Stella was hiding there now. But what if they found it? What if they moved the bench? Martinez walked through the workshop slowly. He picked up toys and examined them. He opened the door to the back room. Daniel held his breath. Martinez looked around the back room. He walked past the workbench. His boot actually stepped on the rug covering the compartment. Then he walked back out. "Nothing here," Martinez said to the other officers. "Let's move on." But one of the other officers, a young man named Peter Clark, shook his head. "Wait, I want to check the back room more carefully. Protocol says we need to move furniture and check underneath." Daniel's blood turned cold. Martinez looked annoyed. "Clark, there's nothing here." "I know Daniel. He wouldn't." "With respect, sir, we have to check everywhere. Those are the orders." Clark walked toward the back room. Daniel's mind raced. Should he stop him? Should he confess? If they found Stella now, at least he could claim he was about to turn her in. But before Clark reached the back room, there was a shout from outside. "Officers! Come quick! There's something at the east gate." All 3 officers ran to the door. Through the window, Daniel could see people gathering near the colony entrance. Something was happening. Martinez turned to Daniel. "Stay here. We'll finish the search later." Then they were gone, running toward the commotion. Daniel rushed to the back room and pulled up the hidden compartment. Stella climbed out, shaking. "That was too close," she said. "I know, but we bought some time. Come on, we need to see what's happening." They moved to the window carefully. A crowd had gathered at the colony's main entrance. Daniel grabbed his coat. "Stay here and stay hidden," he told Stella. "I'll go see what's going on. Be careful." Daniel walked quickly to the crowd. People were talking excitedly, pointing at the sky. "What's happening?" Daniel asked Margaret, who was standing near the edge of the crowd. "A ship just landed," Margaret said quietly. "A Drakeen ship. They're early. They weren't supposed to arrive for 2 more days." Daniel's stomach dropped. "They're here already?" "1 ship. Just a scout vessel from what I hear." "But Daniel, they're demanding to speak with the colony administrator. They want their child back. Now." Daniel pushed through the crowd until he could see. A sleek silver ship sat on the landing pad outside the colony walls. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Graceful curves and sharp edges. Clearly built for both speed and combat. A ramp extended from the ship. 3 figures walked down. Daniel had never seen adult Drakeen before. They were huge, at least 9 feet tall. Their scales were darker than Stella's, deep purple and black. They wore armor that seemed to be made of the same material as their ship. Their eyes glowed red in the morning light. The largest of the 3 stepped forward. When she spoke, her voice boomed across the colony. "I am Commander Zarovic of the Brightscale clan. I come for what is mine. Return my offspring immediately, or face the consequences." Administrator Owens walked forward to meet them. She looked tiny next to the massive Drakeen, but her voice was steady. Commander, welcome to Colony Viridia 7. We have been searching for your child. So far, we have found no sign of any Drakeen in our colony. You lie, Zarovic said flatly. Our sensors detected my offspring's life signature on this planet. She is here. You are hiding her. I assure you we are not. We have been conducting searches. Your searches are meaningless. Give me access to your colony. My soldiers will find her. I cannot allow armed foreign soldiers to roam freely through our colony. Surely you understand this violates our sovereignty. Zarovic leaned down until her face was level with Patricia's. Your sovereignty means nothing compared to my child. She is property of the Brightscale clan. Stolen property. Return her, or I will take her by force. The crowd muttered angrily. Several colonists shouted protests. She's not property. She's a child. We have rights too. Zarovic turned her glowing red eyes on the crowd. Silence, humans. This does not concern you. Daniel felt anger burning in his chest. This was Stella's mother. The one who had thrown her away, left her to die. And now she stood here demanding her back like she was a lost tool. Before he could stop himself, Daniel stepped forward. It does concern us, he said loudly. Everyone turned to look at him. Margaret grabbed his arm, trying to pull him back, but Daniel shook her off. Zarovic focused on him. And who are you, human? My name is Daniel Price, and I know where your daughter is. The crowd gasped. Patricia Owens looked shocked. Margaret covered her face with her hands. Daniel, what are you doing? Patricia hissed. But Daniel ignored her. He walked forward until he stood next to Patricia, facing the massive Drakeen commander. I found your daughter a week ago, Daniel said. She was dying in a snowstorm, freezing to death. Alone. Abandoned. Zarovic's eyes narrowed. She was severed, cast out for weakness, as is our law. Your law is cruel. She's a child. Children need protection, not abandonment. What would you know of Drakeen law, human? Where is she? Take me to her now. No. The single word hung in the air like a thunderclap. Zarovic drew herself up to her full height. You dare refuse me? I do, because Stella doesn't want to go back to you. And I won't force her. Stella? You named her? You presume to claim what is mine. Daniel's heart pounded, but he kept his voice steady. She's not yours anymore. You severed her. By your own law, she has no family. She's an orphan. That does not give you any claim over her. Then I invoke the right of reclamation. Silence fell over the entire colony. Even the wind seemed to stop blowing. Zarovic stared at Daniel for a long moment. You know our laws? I know enough. The right of reclamation says that anyone can challenge for custody of a severed child. They must prove they can provide what the original family could not. I can do that. I have done that. You? A weak human? You think you can claim a Drakeen child? I already have. I kept her alive when you left her to die. I gave her shelter when you gave her none. I showed her kindness when all you showed her was rejection. By your own law, I have the right to challenge. The other two Drakeen warriors moved forward, looking threatening. But Zarovic held up a hand, stopping them. You are either very brave or very foolish, human, she said. The right of reclamation is sacred. I cannot refuse it without dishonoring my clan. But know this, if you fail the challenge, you will lose everything. Your home, your freedom, perhaps your life. I understand. And the child will return to me, never to see you again. Daniel felt his throat tighten, but he nodded. I understand that too. Zarovic studied him. Very well. The challenge will take place in 3 days, when the rest of my fleet arrives. The High Council will judge your worthiness. Prepare yourself, human. You will need more than courage to face us. She turned and walked back to her ship. The other two Drakeen followed. Within minutes, the ship lifted off and disappeared into the sky. The crowd erupted. People surrounded Daniel, shouting questions. Have you lost your mind? Where is the alien? What were you thinking? Officer Martinez pushed through the crowd. He looked furious. Daniel Price, you are under arrest for harboring an unauthorized alien and lying to colony officials. Wait, Patricia Owens said. She looked at Daniel with a mixture of anger and confusion. Before we arrest him, I need to understand. Daniel, you really have this Drakeen child? Yes. And you invoked the right of reclamation. Do you even know what that means? What you have to do? I'm learning. But yes, I know enough. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Then she sighed. Officer Martinez, hold off on the arrest. Ma'am, if Daniel fails this challenge, the Drakeen will punish him far worse than we ever could. If he succeeds, well, that would solve our problem peacefully. Either way, let's see what happens in 3 days. She turned to Daniel. You've put the entire colony at risk with this. I hope you know what you're doing. So do I, Daniel said honestly. The crowd slowly dispersed. People whispered and pointed at Daniel as they left. Some looked at him with admiration. Others with anger. Most just looked confused. Margaret came up to him. That was either the bravest thing I've ever seen or the stupidest. Probably both. Come on. We need to get back to your workshop. Stella must be terrified. They walked back through the colony. People stared at them the whole way. Word had spread fast. When they reached the workshop, Daniel opened the door. Stella stood in the middle of the room, tears streaming down her face. I heard everything, she said. The walls are thin. Daniel, you should not have done that. You challenged my mother. She will destroy you. Daniel walked over and knelt down in front of her. Maybe, but I had to try. I couldn't let her take you without a fight. Why? Why risk everything for me? Because you're worth it. Because someone needs to stand up and say that throwing away children is wrong. Because I love you, Stella. You're like a daughter to me now. Stella threw her arms around him and sobbed. I love you too. You are the only real father I ever had. But I am so scared. I do not want to lose you. Then we'll make sure that doesn't happen. Margaret, you said you could get help. Margaret nodded. Dr. Jensen is already working on documenting Stella's condition when you found her. We need medical proof that she would have died without your intervention. And I've been talking to other colonists. Many of them support what you're doing. They'll testify on your behalf. What about the ones who don't support it? Victor Kane and his friends are angry. They think you're risking the whole colony for one alien. They're demanding Patricia arrest you immediately. There's going to be another town meeting tonight. You'll have to face them. Daniel nodded. I expected that. Let them come. I'll face anyone I have to. Stella pulled back and looked up at him. Daniel, there is something you must know about the challenge. It is not just about proving you kept me alive. You must face the High Council. They will test you. They will try to break you. They will look for any weakness. What kind of tests? I do not know exactly. Each challenge is different. But they will not be easy. And my mother, she is cunning. She will make it as hard as possible. Then I'll be ready. That evening, the town meeting was packed. Every colonist who could walk was there. The room buzzed with angry voices. Patricia Owens called for order. Everyone, please. We need to discuss this situation calmly. Calmly? Victor Kane stood up. He was a wealthy merchant, fat and loud. This man has endangered all of us. He hid an alien, lied to authorities, and now he's challenged a Drakeen commander. He should be locked up. Several people cheered, but others booed. He saved a child's life, someone shouted. He's a hero. He's a fool. Patricia banged her gavel. Order. Let Daniel speak. Daniel stood up. His legs felt shaky, but his voice was strong. I know what I did was against colony law. I knew it when I did it. But when I found Stella dying in that storm, I had a choice. Follow the law and let a child die, or break the law and save her. I chose to save her. I would make the same choice again. Easy for you to say, Victor shouted. You live alone. You have nothing to lose. But what about families? Children? If the Drakeen attack because of you, what then? They won't attack if I win the challenge. And if you lose? Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then I'll face the consequences. But at least I'll have tried. At least I'll have stood up for what's right. An older woman stood up. It was Helen Murray, who had lost her son in the colony plague that killed Lily. I support Daniel. When my boy was sick, Daniel visited him every day. Brought him toys to make him smile. He's a good man. Kind man. We need more people like him, not fewer. Dr. Carl Jensen stood up next. I've examined the alien child. Her condition when Daniel found her was critical. Without immediate intervention, she would have died within hours. Daniel saved her life. That deserves recognition, not punishment. More people stood up. Margaret Foster, Stephen Walsh from the supply depot, Linda Chun from the power station. One by one, they spoke in Daniel's defense. But others spoke against him. They were scared. Scared of war. Scared of the unknown. And Daniel understood that fear. He had lived with fear for years. Finally, Patricia Owens made her decision. Here is what we're going to do. The challenge will proceed in 3 days as scheduled. If Daniel wins, the matter is settled. The alien stays with him, and we maintain peaceful relations with the Drakeen. If he loses, we will cooperate fully with the Drakeen Empire and hope for mercy. Until then, Daniel is under house arrest. He can prepare for the challenge, but he cannot leave his workshop. That's too lenient, Victor protested. That's my decision, Patricia said firmly. Meeting adjourned. The crowd filed out. Some people patted Daniel on the shoulder as they passed. Others glared at him. Most just looked worried. Officer Martinez approached Daniel. I'll escort you home. And Daniel? For what it's worth, I think you're doing something important. Stupid, but important. Thanks, Kevin. Back at the workshop, Daniel found Stella waiting with Margaret and Dr. Jensen. They had laid out papers and documents on his work table. All right, Margaret said. We have 3 days to prepare. Let's make them count. They worked late into the night. Dr. Jensen documented every aspect of Stella's recovery. Margaret gathered written statements from supporters. Daniel practiced his speech explaining why he should be allowed to keep Stella. And Stella told them everything she knew about Drakeen culture, law, and the challenge process. The High Council will consist of 5 judges, she explained. They will ask questions. They will test your character. They will try to make you angry or scared. You must stay calm. Show strength, but also wisdom. What kind of questions? They will ask why you think you deserve to keep me. They will ask about your past. They will question your motives. They might even ask about your daughter. Daniel's jaw tightened. Let them ask. I have nothing to hide. As midnight approached, Margaret and Dr. Jensen left. Daniel and Stella sat by the fireplace. I'm scared, Stella admitted. What if it's not enough? What if they reject you? Then we'll deal with it. But right now, let's focus on what we can control. We'll prepare. We'll be honest. We'll show them what human compassion looks like. My people do not value compassion. Then maybe it's time they learned. Stella smiled slightly. You sound confident. I'm terrified, Daniel admitted. But I'm also determined. You gave me back something I thought I'd lost forever, Stella. You gave me a reason to care again. A reason to fight. I won't give that up without doing everything I can. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the fire burn low. In 3 days, everything would be decided. Daniel would face the High Council of the Brightscale clan. He would be judged by beings who thought humans were weak and inferior. But he had something they didn't have. He had love. He had compassion. He had the support of good people who believed in doing the right thing. And sometimes, just sometimes, that was enough to change the world. Or at least to save one small dragon who needed a home. 3 days passed faster than Daniel wanted. He spent every hour preparing. Margaret brought him books about Drakeen culture. Dr. Jensen helped him organize medical evidence. Stella taught him phrases in her language and explained the customs of her people. But no amount of preparation could calm the fear in his chest. On the morning of the challenge, Daniel woke up before dawn. He had barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Zaravik's glowing red eyes staring at him. Stella was already awake, sitting by the window and looking at the sky. "They are coming," she said quietly. "I can feel it. My people are close." Daniel joined her at the window. The sky was clear and full of stars. Then, as he watched, 3 bright lights appeared. They grew larger and brighter, moving fast. Ships, Drakeen warships. They were enormous, each one bigger than the entire colony. They moved through the air without sound, like ghosts made of metal. Their hulls gleamed silver and black in the early morning light. The ships descended slowly and landed in a field outside the colony walls. The ground shook with their weight. "There are so many," Daniel whispered. "The High Council travels with guards and witnesses," Stella explained. "They want everyone to see justice being done. Or at least what they call justice." Officer Martinez arrived an hour later. "It's time," he said. "They've set up the challenge site in the town square. Everyone is gathering." Daniel put on his best clothes, a simple suit he had worn to Lily's funeral. His hands shook as he buttoned the jacket. Stella came over and straightened his collar. "You look good," she said. "Very dignified." "I'm terrified." "Good. That means you understand what's at stake. But remember, you are not alone. I will be there. Your friends will be there. And you have truth on your side." Do the Drakeen care about truth? They care about strength and courage. Show them both and you have a chance. They walked together to the town square. Officer Martinez walked beside them. Other colonists joined them along the way. Margaret, Dr. Jensen, Helen Murray, and dozens of others. They formed a procession behind Daniel. Even some who had opposed him came. Victor Kane stood on a corner with his arms crossed, watching. But he was there. The town square had been transformed. A raised platform stood in the center. 5 tall chairs sat on the platform, each one carved from dark stone. They looked like thrones. And in those chairs sat 5 Drakeen. Daniel recognized Zaravik in the center chair. She wore elaborate armor now, covered in symbols and decorations. The other 4 Drakeen were equally impressive. All of them radiated power and authority. Around the platform, dozens of Drakeen soldiers stood guard. They wore black armor and carried weapons that hummed with energy. Behind them, hundreds of colonists had gathered. Some looked scared. Others looked curious. A few looked hopeful. Administrator Patricia Owens stood near the platform. She looked small and nervous. A Drakeen stepped forward from the platform. He was older than the others, with silver scales and kind eyes. He spoke in a deep voice that carried across the square. "I am Elder Korth, keeper of the old ways. I will oversee this challenge today." Human Daniel Price stepped forward. Daniel's legs felt like water, but he walked forward. Stella stayed close behind him. "You have invoked the right of reclamation," Elder Korth continued. "This is an ancient law rarely used. Do you understand what it means?" "I do," Daniel said. His voice sounded stronger than he felt. "You must prove 3 things to this council. First, that you provided survival when the original family did not. Second, that you showed strength of character. Third, that you gave the child purpose and meaning. If you prove all 3, the child may choose her own path. If you fail even one, she returns to her birth clan. Do you accept these terms?" "I do." "Then let the challenge begin." Elder Korth sat down. Zaravik stood up and walked to the edge of the platform. She looked down at Daniel with cold eyes. "I will question you first," she said. "Tell the council why you think a human has any right to claim a Drakeen child." Daniel took a deep breath. "I don't claim her because I'm human or because of any right. I claim her because she needed help and I gave it. Because when she was dying, I saved her. Because when she was alone, I gave her a home. You gave her a home in secret, like a thief hiding stolen goods. I gave her a home because your law said I was a criminal for showing compassion. But I would rather be a criminal with a clear conscience than a law-abiding coward." Murmurs ran through the crowd. Some of the Drakeen looked surprised that Daniel spoke so boldly. Zaravik's eyes narrowed. "You speak of conscience. But you broke the laws of your own people. You lied to your authorities. How is that honorable? Sometimes laws are unjust. Sometimes doing what's right means breaking what's legal. I chose to save a life over following a rule. And I'd make that choice again. Another Drakeen judge spoke up. She was tall and thin with green scales. Human, you say you provided survival. Explain how. Dr. Jensen stepped forward. May I speak? Elder Korth nodded. Dr. Jensen held up a tablet showing medical scans. I'm a doctor. I examined Stella when Daniel brought her to me. Her core temperature was critically low. She was dehydrated and malnourished. Without immediate intervention, she would have died within hours. Daniel provided heat, food, shelter, and care. He saved her life. The green-scaled judge studied the scans. This proves he found her in poor condition. But how do we know she was in danger before he found her? Perhaps he injured her himself. Stella stepped forward. Her voice was quiet but clear. I will speak. Zarovic glared at her. You have no voice in this matter. You are severed. But the right of reclamation says the child can testify, Elder Korth said. Let her speak. Stella faced the council. Daniel could see her shaking, but she stood tall. My mother and father left me on the surface during a storm. They said I was weak, that I brought shame to the clan. They flew away in their ship and left me to freeze. I tried to find shelter. I walked for hours. I was so cold I could not feel my wings anymore. Then I saw light from Daniel's window. I crawled to his door. I thought I was going to die there. She turned to look at Daniel. Then he opened the door. He could have closed it again. He could have called for authorities. But he picked me up and carried me inside. He gave me warmth and food. He sat with me all night to make sure I lived. He saved me when my own blood left me to die. Several colonists wiped tears from their eyes. Even some of the Drakeen looked uncomfortable. But Zarovic showed no emotion. You were weak. You are still weak. The strong survive. The weak perish. That is natural law. That's not law, Daniel said loudly. That's cruelty. Zarovic turned her glowing eyes on him. You dare lecture me about Drakeen ways? Yes, I do. Because your ways are wrong. Children aren't tools to be discarded when they don't meet your standards. They're living beings who deserve love and protection. All of them, even the ones who are different. Love is weakness. No, love is strength. Takes more courage to care for someone than to throw them away. Takes more power to show kindness than to show cruelty. You want to talk about strength? I faced your entire empire for one child. I risked everything I have. That's strength. The square was completely silent. Everyone stared at Daniel. Even the Drakeen soldiers looked surprised. A third judge spoke. He was massive, with red scales and scars across his face. You speak of strength. But you are just a soft human. What do you know of real strength? I know that the strongest person I ever met was my daughter. She was 8 years old when she died. She was sick for months, in terrible pain. But every day she smiled. She told jokes. She tried to make everyone around her feel better. She faced death with more courage than most warriors face battle. That's real strength. Not muscles or weapons. Courage of the heart. The red-scaled judge was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. The fourth judge spoke. She was older with pale blue scales. You claim you gave the child purpose. What purpose can a human give to a Drakeen? Daniel gestured to his workshop. I'm a Toymaker. I create things that bring joy to children. I taught Stella to create too. To build instead of destroy. To find happiness in making something beautiful. I showed her that life can be about more than power and dominance. Making toys. Zarovic laughed harshly. You taught a Drakeen warrior to make toys? You have made her even weaker. I taught her to be kind. Daniel shot back. I taught her that her value doesn't come from how strong she is or how well she fights. Her value comes from being herself. From being alive. From being loved. Margaret stepped forward. May I speak? Elder Korth nodded again. Margaret addressed the council. I'm a teacher. I've worked with children for 20 years. I've seen what Daniel does for our colony. Every toy he makes brings happiness to a child. He doesn't do it for money or fame. He does it because he cares. He's taught Stella the most important lesson any child can learn. That compassion matters more than power. Other colonists stepped forward. One by one, they testified. They talked about Daniel's kindness, his generosity, how he helped people even when he had nothing to gain. Helen Murray spoke about how Daniel comforted her when her son died. Stephen Walsh talked about how Daniel fixed his daughter's toy for free when they couldn't afford a new one. Even Officer Martinez spoke, admitting that Daniel had more integrity than most people he knew. Victor Kane stood up too. Everyone looked surprised. I didn't support this at first, Victor said. I thought Daniel was risking all of us for nothing. But watching him stand here, facing all of you without fear, just to protect a child who isn't even his species. That takes guts. Maybe we humans are soft. But maybe that's not such a bad thing. Zarovic stood up. Enough. We have heard enough testimony. The council will deliberate. The 5 judges moved to the side of the platform and spoke in low voices. Daniel couldn't hear what they were saying. The wait felt like forever. Finally, Elder Korth returned to his seat. We have considered the evidence, he said. On the matter of survival, we find that Daniel Price did indeed save the child's life. The medical evidence is clear. Daniel felt a tiny bit of hope. On the matter of strength of character, Elder Korth continued, we find that Daniel Price showed courage in the face of danger. He protected the child at great personal risk. This shows strength. 2 down. 1 to go. On the matter of purpose, Elder Korth paused. This is where we have disagreement. Daniel's heart sank. Elder Korth looked at Stella. Tell me, child, what have you learned from this human? Stella stepped forward again. I learned that I am worth something, not because I am strong or fast or perfect, but because I am alive. Daniel taught me that every life has value. He taught me kindness. He taught me to create beauty instead of seeking power. He taught me what it means to have a family who loves you. These are not Drakeen values, Zarovic said. No, Stella agreed. They are better. Gasps came from the crowd. Even Elder Korth looked shocked. Zarovic stood up, her face twisted with anger. You dare say human values are better than ours? Yes, Stella said, her voice stronger now. Because your values left me to die. His values saved me. Your values say I am nothing because I am weak. His values say I am everything because I am loved. Yes, his way is better. Zarovic looked ready to attack. But Elder Korth held up a hand. The child has spoken her truth, he said. That is her right. He turned to the other judges. They nodded one by one. We have reached a decision, Elder Korth announced. On all 3 matters, we find in favor of Daniel Price. He provided survival, showed strength, and gave purpose. The right of reclamation is granted. Cheers erupted from the colonists. People hugged each other and cried with relief. But Elder Korth wasn't finished. However, there is one final step. Stella Vikarasheen, you must now make your choice. You can return to your birth clan, or you can stay with the human. The choice is yours alone. Everyone fell silent again. All eyes turned to Stella. She looked at Zarovic, her mother, the one who had given her life but not love. Then she looked at Daniel, the human who had given her everything. Stella walked over and took Daniel's hand. I choose Daniel, she said clearly. He is my father now. He is my family. I choose love over power. I choose kindness over cruelty. I choose him. Daniel felt tears running down his face. He pulled Stella into a hug. Zarovic's face showed nothing, but her voice was cold as ice. So be it. Stella Vikarasheen is no longer of the Brightscale clan. She is severed completely. We have no claim on her. She turned to Elder Korth. The matter is settled. We will leave this planet immediately. Elder Korth stood. The challenge is complete. Justice has been served according to our ancient laws. Let no one question this decision. The Drakeen judges left the platform. The soldiers followed them. Within an hour, The massive ships lifted off and disappeared into the sky. The crowd surrounded Daniel and Stella. People cheered and congratulated them. Even Administrator Owens smiled. "You did it," Patricia said. "You actually did it. You stood up to the Drakeen Empire and won." "We all did it," Daniel said, looking at Margaret, Dr. Jensen, and the others who had helped. "This was never just about me. It was about all of us choosing to do what's right." That evening, back at the workshop, Daniel and Stella sat by the fire. The colony had thrown them a celebration. People had brought food and gifts. Children had played with Stella, fascinated by her scales and wings. Now it was quiet again, just the two of them. "I'm your daughter now," Stella said softly. "Really and truly." "Yes, you are. And you're my father." "Yes, I am." Stella leaned against him. "Thank you, Daniel, for fighting for me, for showing me what real family means." Daniel put his arm around her. "Thank you for giving me a reason to live again, for showing me that love is always worth the risk." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the fire burn. Outside, life in the colony returned to normal. But nothing was really normal anymore. Something had changed. The people of Viridia 7 had seen one of their own stand up to an empire. They had seen kindness win over power. And they had learned that sometimes the softest hearts are the strongest ones. In a small workshop on a frozen planet, a Toymaker and his dragon daughter held each other close. They were family now, not by blood or species but by choice. And that, Daniel thought, was the strongest bond of all. 6 months had passed since the challenge. Winter had given way to spring on Viridia 7. The endless snow had melted, revealing green grass and colorful flowers. The colony looked different now, brighter, more alive, and so did Daniel. He stood in his workshop, watching Stella carefully carve a piece of wood. Her claws moved with precision now. She had become quite skilled at toy making. "How does this look?" she asked, holding up a wooden bird. Daniel examined it closely. The bird had detailed feathers and a proud stance. It was beautiful. "That's excellent work," he said with genuine pride. "You're getting better every day." Stella beamed. Her scales seemed to glow with happiness. She had grown since that first night. Not much physically, but in confidence and joy. She smiled often now. She laughed. She was becoming the child she was always meant to be. "I want to paint it blue," she said, "like earth birds, the ones you showed me in pictures." "That would be lovely. We have blue paint in the cabinet." As Stella searched for paint, Daniel looked around his workshop. It had changed too. More toys lined the shelves now. Stella's creations sat next to his own. They worked together every day, creating things that brought joy to others. The colony children loved having Stella around. At first, they had been scared of her, a real dragon living among them, but Stella's gentle nature won them over quickly. Now she taught woodcarving classes at Margaret's school twice a week. The children adored her. There was a knock at the door. Daniel opened it to find Officer Martinez standing there. But he wasn't in uniform today. He wore casual clothes and carried a smile. "Morning, Daniel." "Morning, Stella." "Kevin, come in. What brings you by?" Martinez entered and pulled an envelope from his pocket. "Official business, actually. From Administrator Owens. She wanted me to deliver this personally." Daniel opened the envelope. Inside was a document with fancy letterhead and official seals. "It's your citizenship papers," Martinez explained. "For Stella." Patricia pushed it through with the Colonial Council. She's now officially a citizen of Viridia 7 Colony. Legal guardian listed as Daniel Price. Daniel felt his throat tighten with emotion. This makes it official. Real. "It was always real," Stella said, coming over to look at the papers. "But yes, this is good. Now no one can question it." Martinez smiled. "There's more. The Colonial Council wants to honor both of you. They're planning a ceremony next week. You're getting the Medal of Courage for standing up to the Drakeen. And Stella is getting the Youth Achievement Award for her work with the children." "That's not necessary," Daniel said. "Maybe not. But people want to do it anyway. You two changed something here. People are less afraid now, more willing to help each other. You reminded us what it means to be human. After Martinez left, Daniel and Stella returned to their work. But Daniel found it hard to concentrate. His mind kept wandering to that night 6 months ago. The night that changed everything. "What are you thinking about?" Stella asked, noticing his distraction. "Just remembering how scared I was when I found you. How I almost didn't open the door. But you did. But I almost didn't. What if I had just ignored the sound? What if I had been too afraid?" Stella set down her carving and came over to him. "But you were not too afraid. You chose courage over fear. That is what matters. I guess I'm wondering if I would do it again. If I would have the courage." "You would. Because courage is not about never being afraid. It is about being afraid and doing the right thing anyway. You taught me that." Daniel smiled and hugged her. "When did you get so wise?" "I learned from the best." That afternoon, Margaret stopped by with news. She looked excited. "You won't believe what happened," she said. "A Drakeen ship just landed at the spaceport. But this time it's different. They're not here to make demands. They're here to talk." Daniel felt a chill. "Talk about what?" "About you. About what happened." Apparently, word of the challenge spread throughout the Drakeen Empire. Some of them want to learn more about human ways. Stella's eyes widened. "My people are interested in humans? That is very unusual." "The ship captain asked specifically to meet you both," Margaret continued. "Administrator Owens wants to know if you're willing." Daniel looked at Stella. She nodded. "We'll meet them," Daniel said. An hour later, they stood in the colony's meeting hall. Administrator Owens was there, along with several council members. Officer Martinez stood by the door. The doors opened, and a Drakeen entered. She was smaller than Zarovic, with bright silver scales and kind eyes. She wore simple robes instead of armor. She bowed her head respectfully. "I am Scholar Mirith of the Starweave clan. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." "Why are you here?" Daniel asked cautiously. Mirith gestured to chairs. "May we sit? I have much to tell you." They all sat down. Mirith folded her hands in her lap. "What you did 6 months ago caused quite a reaction in the Empire," she began. "Many were angry. They saw it as a human challenging Drakeen authority. But others, like myself, saw something different. We saw courage. We saw compassion. We saw values that perhaps we had forgotten." "Forgotten?" Stella asked. "The Drakeen were not always so harsh," Mirith explained. "Long ago, before we became an empire, we valued family and community. But as we grew powerful, we changed. We began to see strength as the only virtue. We started abandoning children who did not meet our standards. We told ourselves it was natural law. But deep down, many of us knew it was wrong." She looked at Daniel with respect. "You stood before our High Council and told us we were wrong. A human, Toymaker, someone we considered weak. And you won. You proved that compassion is not weakness. That love is real strength." "I just did what any decent person would do," Daniel said. "But that is exactly the point. In Drakeen culture, very few would have done what you did. We have lost our decency. And seeing yours made some of us realize what we have become." Mirith pulled out a tablet and showed them images. Drakeen children playing. Families together. Adults creating art. These are from settlements that have started changing their ways. After hearing about your challenge, they began questioning the old customs. Some clans have stopped the practice of severance. Others are teaching their children about compassion alongside strength. It is small changes, but it is beginning. Stella stared at the images with tears in her eyes. "My people are changing? Because of what happened here. Because of what you and Daniel showed us. That there is a better way." "This is wonderful," Margaret said. "But surely not everyone agrees with these changes?" Miritha's expression darkened. "No. Many still cling to the old ways. The warrior clans especially. They see these changes as weakness. There is conflict in the Empire. Debates. Arguments. Some fear we are heading toward civil disagreement. I'm sorry, Daniel said. I never meant to cause problems for your people. Do not apologize. Sometimes problems are necessary for growth. Sometimes things must be challenged before they can change. Mirith stood up. I came here today to thank you, and to ask a favor. What kind of favor? I am writing a book about the challenge, about human values and what we can learn from them. I would like to interview you both, to share your story with more Drakeen. Perhaps it will inspire more change. Daniel looked at Stella. She nodded eagerly. We'll help however we can, Daniel said. Mirith smiled. It was the first time Daniel had seen a Drakeen smile. It made her look younger, hopeful. Thank you. This means more than you know. Over the next few days, Mirith stayed in the colony. She interviewed Daniel and Stella for hours. She talked to other colonists too. She wanted to understand human culture completely. She was especially interested in Daniel's toys. You make these for no profit? She asked, watching him carve. I sell them, but just enough to cover materials. The real payment is seeing a child's face light up. Fascinating. In Drakeen culture, everything must have a clear purpose, usually military or economic. Creating something just for joy is considered wasteful. That's sad, Stella said. She was working on her own carving nearby. Joy is important, maybe the most important thing. Mirith watched Stella work. You have changed so much from your species' norm. Do you ever miss Drakeen ways? Stella thought carefully before answering. I miss some things. The way our ships fly, the beauty of our cities, the sound of our songs. But I do not miss the cruelty. I do not miss feeling worthless. Here, with Daniel, I feel valued. I feel loved. That is worth more than any empire. You are very wise for one so young. Daniel taught me well. On Mirith's last day, she gathered everyone in the meeting hall. She had finished her interviews and was preparing to leave. Before I go, I want to share something, she said. The High Council has made a decision. From now on, any Drakeen child who is severed can choose to seek refuge with other species. They cannot be forced to return. This is now official law. Gasps filled the room. That's incredible, Margaret said. It is just one step, Mirith admitted. But it is a step forward. And it happened because of you. She looked at Daniel and Stella. You proved that different species can form families. That love transcends biology. That is a powerful lesson. Before she left, Mirith gave Stella a gift. It was a pendant carved from blue crystal, shaped like a dragon and a human standing together. This is the symbol of the new movement, Mirith explained. Those of us working for change wear it. It represents unity and compassion. I want you to have the first one. Stella put it on immediately. The crystal glowed softly against her scales. After Mirith's ship departed, life returned to its new normal. But things kept changing. More Drakeen ships visited the colony. Some were scholars like Mirith. Others were young Drakeen who had been severed and heard they might find acceptance among humans. Daniel and Stella helped them all. They showed them kindness. They taught them about human values. Some stayed in the colony. Others moved on to other human settlements. But all of them left different than they arrived. Softer, kinder, more hopeful. The workshop became famous. People came from other colonies to see the place where a human had challenged an empire. They wanted to meet Daniel and Stella. They wanted to hear the story firsthand. Daniel didn't love the attention, but he understood its importance. Every person who heard the story was someone who might choose compassion over cruelty, who might help someone in need instead of walking away. One evening, as they closed the workshop, Stella asked a question. Daniel, do you think we changed the galaxy? Daniel considered this. I don't know about the whole galaxy, but we changed our little corner of it. And maybe that's enough. Maybe change starts small and spreads. Like ripples in water. Exactly like that. Stella looked at the pendant Mirith had given her. I used to think I was worthless. That being different made me broken. But now I understand. Being different is not weakness. It is just being different. And that is okay. More than okay. It's beautiful. The galaxy needs people who are different. who see things in new ways, who ask questions and challenge old ideas. People like you, and people like you, they walked home together under the stars. The same stars that shone on Earth, on the Drakeen homeworld, on thousands of planets where different species lived their lives. The galaxy was vast and complicated, full of different cultures and values and ways of living. Sometimes those differences caused conflict. Sometimes they caused fear. But sometimes, if people were brave enough, those differences could bring something beautiful. Understanding, growth, change. Daniel had been a lonely old man making toys in a frozen workshop. Stella had been a dying child abandoned in a storm. Separately, they were just two individuals struggling to survive. Together, they were something more. Family. A symbol. A proof that love could cross any boundary. That night, Daniel carved one final toy. Two figures, side by side. A human and a dragon. He painted them carefully, adding tiny details. When he finished, Stella picked it up and examined it. "It is us," she said with wonder. "Yes, I thought we should have something to remember this time. These months when everything changed." "I will never forget," Stella said. "Not any of it. The fear, the challenge, the choice, and most of all, the love." She placed the carved figures on the shelf next to the dragon Daniel had made for Lily all those years ago. 3 dragons now. One for the daughter he had lost. One for the daughter he had found. And one showing them together. Past, present, and future. Pain, healing, and hope. Daniel looked at the 3 carvings and felt peace for the first time in years. He had not forgotten Lily. He never would. But he had learned that the heart could hold both grief and joy. That loving Stella did not mean betraying Lily's memory. Love did not replace love. It added to it, made it grow. "Come on," Daniel said to Stella. "Let's go home." "We are home," Stella said, smiling. "Anywhere we are together is home." And she was right. In the cold reaches of space, on a frozen world where survival once meant everything, a Toymaker and his dragon daughter had proven something remarkable. That warmth was not just about heat or shelter or physical comfort. Real warmth came from the choice to care when no one forced you to. From opening your door when it would be easier to keep it closed. From standing up for what was right even when it cost you everything. That warmth could save a life, change a culture, transform a galaxy. One act of kindness at a time. Daniel Price had opened his door on a snowy night and found a dying child. He could have turned away. He could have chosen safety over compassion. But he did not. And that one choice rippled outward like waves across water. Touching lives. Changing minds. Proving that sometimes the smallest acts of courage could echo across the stars. The story of the Toymaker and the dragon spread far beyond Viridia 7. It was told in Drakeen settlements and human colonies. It was taught in schools and discussed in councils. It became legend. But for Daniel and Stella, it was simply life. Their life. Together. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.